Breaking news from around your world on this Tuesday, September 11th, 2018. I'm Larry Rice. Russia is apparently the main suspect in U.S. agencies' investigation of mysterious illnesses in American personnel in Cuba and China. NBC News reported on Tuesday that evidence from communication intercepts has pointed to Moscow's involvement during the investigation involving the FBI, CIA, and other agencies. NBC cited 3 unidentified U.S. officials and 2 other people briefed on the probe. However, the evidence is not conclusive enough for the U.S. to publicly assign blame to Moscow, according to the NBC sources. U.S. officials said in July that they are still investigating health problems at the U.S. Embassy in Cuba and do not know who or what was behind the mysterious illnesses, which began in 2016 and have affected 26 Americans. The U.S. believes sophisticated electromagnetic weapons may have been used on government workers, possibly in conjunction with other technologies. State Department officials said symptoms have included hearing loss, tinnitus, vertigo, headaches, and fatigue, a pattern consistent with mild traumatic brain injury. The FBI said it did not have a comment on the NBC report. Cuba, which is conducting its own investigation, has denied involvement. The White House is working on plans for a second summit between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that Kim requested the meeting in a very warm, very positive letter delivered to Trump through the State Department. Sanders added that the White House won't release the full letter unless the North Korean leader agrees that we should, although Sanders said the Trump administration is open to and are already in the process of coordinating a second summit. Trump and Kim met in Singapore in June in their first summit. Kim committed to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, although since then, experts have said Pyongyang has failed to take concrete steps toward unwinding that country's nuclear weapons program. An aid agency said that more than 100 migrants drowned off the Libyan coastline earlier this month after their rubber boat sank. The agency, Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, said 2 rubber boats set sail on September 1st, but one of the vessels deflated and sank. It's the latest episode in Europe's ongoing and much debated migrant crisis and appears to be the largest migrant death toll in the Mediterranean in several months. 276 survivors were eventually taken to the Libyan port city of Coms, around 100 kilometers southeast of the capital of Tripoli. MSF says the group is now being held in arbitrary detention. The survivors, including pregnant women, children, and infants, have been treated by MSF for pneumonia or burns from leaking fuel. In early June, 112 people reportedly drowned after a boat sank off the Tunisian coast. Later the same month, the United Nations said that 220 people died in 3 separate incidents over the course of 2 days. More than 1,500 migrants have died while attempting to cross the Mediterranean so far this year, according to the International Organization for Migration. Hurricane Florence is getting stronger as it approaches the mid-Atlantic eastern coast of the United States, and forecasters said it will gain even more steam later Tuesday. The National Hurricane Center said Florence is a Category 4 storm that will produce extremely dangerous conditions for any land in its path. Forecasters said Florence could reach Category 5 strength, which requires sustained winds of 157 miles per hour or greater, and could turn out to be the worst storm to hit the eastern U.S. since Hurricane Hazel in 1954. Forecasters said Florence will most likely make landfall in North Carolina or South Carolina early Friday morning. Right now, the eye of the storm is about 390 miles south-southeast of Bermuda and 905 miles east-southeast of Cape Fear, North Carolina. It's moving west-northwest at 16 miles per hour, but appears to be slowing down. Hurricane and storm surge watches are in effect from South Carolina to the North Carolina-Virginia state line. Florence is expected to produce rainfall accumulation of up to 15 to 20 inches and possibly 30 inches in some spots along its track over portions of North Carolina, Virginia, and northern South Carolina through the weekend. That amount of rainfall will likely produce life-threatening flash flooding. Florence is the first of 3 storms brewing in the Atlantic, ahead of Hurricane Helene and Tropical Storm Isaac, which are not, at this time, expected to threaten the U.S. mainland. The United States is working with France and the U.K. on plans for a coordinated attack against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government if it uses chemical weapons in an expected offensive in Idlib province. The U.S. conducted airstrikes against the regime in April 2017 and April 2018 after Assad was accused of using chemical weapons against civilians. National Security Advisor John Bolton said that, "We've tried to convey the message in recent days that if there's a third use of chemical weapons, the response will be much stronger." Russia has already launched 70 airstrikes in the province, and the Syrian government has dropped dozens of barrel bombs. An estimated 3 million civilians and 70,000 opposition fighters are in Idlib, the last rebel-held part of Syria. The Trump administration announced that it will close the Washington office of the Palestine Liberation Organization, citing a lack of progress toward peace talks with Israel. National Security Advisor John Bolton said, "The Trump administration will not keep the office open when the Palestinians refuse to take steps to start direct and meaningful negotiations with Israel." The move marked the latest effort by the U.S. to increase pressure on Palestinian leaders to commit to negotiations. President Trump's son-in-law and advisor, Jared Kushner, is spearheading the Trump administration's efforts. Kushner and other administration officials are expected to unveil their peace plan soon. President Trump on Tuesday remembered the band of brave patriots aboard a September 11th flight that crashed in Pennsylvania, praising passengers and crew members who resisted hijackers and sent a message that the nation would never ever submit to tyranny. Trump honored those who died 17 years ago at a rural field where the 4th airliner of the day crashed. It happened after those aboard realized what was happening to the country, and several passengers tried to storm the cockpit. The president praised those who took control of their destiny and changed the course of history. Trump said, "This field is now a monument to American defiance. This memorial is now a message to the world. America will never, ever submit to tyranny." Trump listened as the names of the 40 victims of Flight 93 were read aloud, followed by the tolling of bells. He was joined in remembrances by his wife, First Lady Melania Trump, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf, and former Governor Mark Schweiker, who was the state's lieutenant governor on 9/11. Nearly 3,000 people died that day when other airplanes were flown into New York City's World Trade Center and the Pentagon in an attack planned by al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. Bin Laden was killed in May of 2011 during a U.S. military operation in Pakistan ordered by President Barack Obama. Investors, including the California Public Employees Retirement System, squared off with Volkswagen in German court Monday, seeking $10.7 billion in compensation for the damage done by the German automaker's diesel emissions scandal. The backlash from VW's attempts to cheat on diesel emissions tests has cost the company more than $30 billion in penalties so far. On the first day of the trial, the court indicated that some of the 1,670 claims might be too old to be considered and that several key issues had to be resolved before witnesses testify. A lawyer for some of the plaintiffs said some of the claims have a good chance. And that's your update for this Tuesday, September 11th, 2018. I'm Larry Rice. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.